you actually a little bit of an update. I'm proud to say that I'll go through these numbers in the presentation, but NowThis has actually grown very quickly over the last couple of years. Just by a show of hands, how many of you in this room have heard of NowThis before? All right, yeah, 2, good. So this will be a great introduction, and I think that in terms of fact-checking and digital video, I'm gonna present more the digital and social video side of it, and then Toby will follow up with a detailed presentation on how we fact-check those videos. And our organizations also work very closely together, so we're both happy to field questions from you guys at the end of both of our presentations. So I will introduce you guys to NowThis. I think the best way that I can tell you what we do is we call ourselves News for Young People, but we are also a video-only company. We only publish video, and we only publish it on social media. So I'll go into those details, but first I will show you an introductory video that will give you an idea of the type of content that we do.
Matters. It's the connection. You got it.
Stay woke, stay energized, stay on point. Understand what's going around you.
Unless you stand up and make those demands, nobody hears you.
Please calm down.
I grew up along these existing barriers, known to us as the wall.
This is a gathering about our voice and our right to use it.
Our glorious diversity.
We are here.
Our diversities of faiths and colors and creeds.
We are here.
We are here.
That is not a threat to who we are. It makes us who we are.
You have a voice.
And you have a right to be exactly who you are.
We
are here.
We just gotta get out there and do it.
Right here on NowThis.
I've never interviewed someone before.
Now you tell me.
Cool, thank you. So now you have a little bit of a better idea of what we do. If you were here for Shelby Coffey's presentation just before, I thought that some of what he spoke about was really interesting, and he kind of represents this more traditional journalist perspective where, as he said, he believes that journalists should always be objective. NowThis is very different, and some people, like even CNN, describe us as what they call a point of view news organization, which means that, yes, we have a point of view often in a lot of our stories, and we're not afraid to share that point of view. And as you can see, our point of view, we emphasize, is from the perspective of a young person. And over 80% of our audience is actually under the age of 35. So by speaking authentically to young people with this point of view, we've really been able to grow that young base, and not just in America, but around the world. So this slide just gives you a little bit, it's basically our mission statement. So our editorial mission is to make news interesting. There is a little bit of what I call a misconception, not just in America, but around the world, that young people aren't interested in news, that they don't care, that they're apathetic, especially when it comes to politics and hard news. So at NowThis, we don't believe that at all. We're all news junkies and obsessives ourselves, and so we set out to make news interesting for young people. What we found is that it's not necessarily that young people aren't interested because they're not paying for subscriptions to the New York Times or paying for subscriptions to the Washington Post. It's that news organizations have to completely change their approach to how they deliver news in order to reach those audiences. And I'll get into that in a little more detail in the next slide. Our mission statement is also to tell stories that matter, to dive deep into core issues with our audience, and to be a trusted voice of the youth perspective. So our areas of expertise, we have this positive youth view. We're not just talking the talk, we are actually walking the walk. We do have one of the youngest and most diverse newsrooms in America today. As you can see, I myself am a minority, a woman of color. I'm managing editor of the newsroom. My boss, our editor-in-chief, is also a woman. We have several minorities in leadership positions in our newsroom, and the makeup of the rest of the newsroom are even junior producers and writers. They come from all over the world: Mexico, China, Europe. They speak multiple languages. We have diversity not just of race and gender, but also of religion. We have socioeconomic diversity. We have people who have come from all walks of life and all types of backgrounds. And we consider that diverse perspective really important because it's just something that you don't see in media today. Even in a country like America, where we do have sort of this thriving free press, they still fall victim to not having like the same kind of people in their newsroom, whether that is they're all upper middle class or they're all predominantly white men. It's still an issue, and as Mr. Coffey mentioned in his presentation before, it's obviously an issue in post-Soviet countries like Russia and Kazakhstan, where there's not a lot of diversity in terms of who owns the media. So that positive youth view is very important to our mission. We are also a trusted voice, however. I've talked about how we're not afraid to have a point of view, but we always want to make sure that we are able to back up that point of view with facts, with information. And so that is something that's really important to us editorially. So we hire not just talented video editors and producers, but we hire journalists, we hire fact checkers, we work with organizations like Storyful to make sure that everything that we're putting out there is completely verified. And we're also a breaking news organization in the sense that we don't just cover issues that are important to us, but we also cover breaking and trending news as it happens. And that's another reason, the speed of our newsroom is another reason that we've been able to build such a huge audience as much as we have, because within 20 to 30 minutes of a breaking news event happening somewhere in the world, we will have details, at least in terms of how much we know at the time, in your Facebook feed or your other social feed, within 20 to 30 minutes of that actually happening. So we are a distributed media company. I think this is a brand new idea for this country. It was brand new in America a couple years ago. And what that means is we don't even have a website. If you go to nowthisnews.com, it will say homepage, even the word sounds old. We live where you live, in your social feeds. So again, I'll poll the audience. How many of you actually get your news from just watching TV? Nobody, I was waiting for the translation. How many of you get your news from somewhere like Facebook or Twitter? Okay, so at least more of you, that's good. So that's exactly our point. By being a distributed media company and publishing directly to those social platforms, that's how we're bringing the news where people are actually living and spending their time. And we have built a very engaged audience on those platforms. So this is the reason that we decided to kill our website and not have a homepage. It's a little bit of the history of digital publishing and how users actually discover and consume news. If you go back to the 1990s, it was mostly direct. It was either people who had AOL getting news from the AOL homepage and screen, or it was people typing in and going to NewYorkTimes.com, CNN.com, and getting the day's headlines from that website. People don't do that anymore, but they did it in the 90s. When we moved into the 2000s, discovery of news really became based on search, right? Google became huge in the 2000s, and we learned that people were really searching for their news, and also, more importantly, searching for other sources of news beyond just the big networks or the big TV shows. And so the internet became increasingly important to news consumption in the 2000s. Then you get to 2010, and social referrals became incredibly important. The New York Times ended up getting a huge percentage of their website traffic from referrals on Facebook. So it was people who were sharing links to New York Times or CNN articles on Facebook, then clicking on those links and going to their website. So they were still ending up at another site. They were clicking a link and going outside of that app somewhere else. But social referrals from Facebook, Twitter, and other places became dominant in 2010. Then we fast forward a couple years to 2015, which is really when NowThis grew its audience explosively. In 2015, nobody wants to leave the Facebook app. Nobody wants to leave the Twitter app. You want to stay in it. You want to keep scrolling in your news feed and see as much as you can. And so what we do is providing native social video, publishing directly to your Facebook feeds so that you never have to leave the app. You never have to click to another website. It works really well for the laziest consumers out there. You don't have to take any other actions to get your news because it's literally already right there in your app. So we are this distributed media company, and the reason that we are also an all video company is because we really emphasize being optimized for mobile. So again, going back to statistics, we know that people are getting their news from Facebook. We also know that people predominantly are accessing Facebook on their phones. There is a significant number, I think the latest study in America said over 60% of American news consumers were getting news from their phones. So when we're making our content, we really have to keep in mind that little mobile screen and make sure that our videos look good within that very narrow window. So NowThis lives at the intersection of mobile, social, and video. It's the best way that I can illustrate our model. So platform-appropriate content is also integral to our success, I think. It's not enough to take one video, put it on Facebook, put the same thing on Twitter, put the same thing on Instagram, and put the same thing on Snapchat or other platforms. You have to actually customize the content to what the platforms are built for. So this slide is a great example of how we take the same story but adapt it differently. You can see here we have it for Facebook, for Snapchat, for Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Tumblr. I won't get into the sort of technical details, but I'm happy to take questions about it or talk to you guys more about it after the session. But some of the things that we keep in mind when we're optimizing our content. We know that horizontal video works for Facebook, as well as vertical and increasingly square. But at the beginning, Facebook mostly supported this horizontal video. Snapchat, it has to be more vertical because that app takes up your entire screen. That's the way that it's used. Instagram, which I know is huge here, obviously works the best with square video. So that's the way we edit our videos in that square format for Instagram. Twitter is often the same as Facebook, but we will sometimes use a slightly different editorial voice. YouTube supports longer form content. A lot of our content on Facebook is 90 seconds or under because we want to keep people's attention for the entire time, but we understand that they're not going to sit on one video for 5 minutes necessarily. Whereas on YouTube, people love to watch videos that are anywhere from 3 to 10 minutes long or more. So the quick screenshot that you saw, which you can still see on mobile, is when we actually interviewed President Obama back in November 2016, 1 week before the election. And that was a huge moment for our company because it showed that we're not just a news curator or a news aggregator. A distributed media company can actually be a company that breaks news. And we did break news in that interview with President Obama. We asked him about the FBI director at the time, James Comey, who was caught up in quite a controversy related to the election. We asked him about the construction of the Dakota Access oil pipeline, which there were huge protests going on in America over the construction of this pipeline. And Obama's answers on those two topics made CNN headlines. The New York Times sent a breaking news alert about our interview. And so I include that example to show you as a way that how a social video company can actually disrupt the mainstream news business. our statistics, we do over 2.5 billion monthly video views right now. We actually have over 23 million followers on all of our platforms. And the way that our newsroom works is we're very productive. We actually create and distribute over 60 videos every single day. And that is coming from a newsroom of 45 producers. Oh, wait, I went backwards. Okay. So we are the #1 video news publisher on Facebook. That's how big our scale is, and that's how much we were able to establish this huge young audience. We have a unique approach. We often say this. Toby and I both spoke at this festival in Almaty a couple days ago. I don't know if you heard of it, but it was called Go Viral, which is a great theme for a festival. But what we actually say and tell our producers all the time is that virality is not a strategy. We get this question all the time, but there is no magic formula for making a video go viral on the internet. You can't predict internet behavior in terms of what video is going to end up getting 100 million views. What you can do is study your audience data, study performance, and use best practices and have viral content be the outcome of a good strategy. So I'll tell you what our strategy is. We have a non-traditional newsroom structure, right? We're all video, we're all social, we're entirely on digital, we don't have a print version, we don't have a website. And so having this non-traditional newsroom structure for a digital organization is what allows us to innovate, because we're not tied up in the past, we're not a legacy news organization, and we don't have to deal with people who don't even understand social media in the first place, which is something that people can encounter at a lot of older news organizations. Our teams are actually organized by distribution points. So again, we have journalists who cover a wide variety of beats, and we have different verticals on Facebook. So we have the main NowThis page, which has over 11 million followers, but then we also have NowThis Politics. We have NowThis Entertainment. We have NowThis Future, which is probably gonna do a lot of videos on Expo. They're all about science, technology, and innovation. And so organizing our teams both by issue, but then also by distribution point. Going back to the earlier screenshot that you saw, we have a team of producers who are exclusively focused on Facebook. Then we have another team that is exclusively focused on Snapchat. Another couple of producers who exclusively focus on Instagram. And so narrowing and breaking up our teams that way and allowing them to focus on each of those platforms means that they really understand why people use it, the ways that they use it, and how you can really optimize your content to look and be the best on those platforms. We also have an insights team. It's basically a data and insights team of about 10 people that is constantly in communication with our senior editors and our producers. So when I talk about studying audience data and forming best practices, this is what an editorial plus insights team really allows you to do. They look at everything. They look at not just the number of views that we're getting, but the length of time that people are actually watching our video, so how long are they actually paying attention. And a publisher like Facebook actually allows you to look and see at what point in the video does a user stop paying attention. That's really useful information. They look at demographics, they look at age, they look at location. So we know all of these things about our audience, and we know what they're interested in because we're constantly looking at those metrics. Training for platform expertise, dividing your newsroom or your teams by those platforms is what allows them to accumulate expertise and be early trend spotters. There are also a lot of tools, both free third-party tools and ones that you can pay for, and again, services like Storyful that you can work with and use that allow you to see what's trending on Twitter, what's trending on Facebook, what are people talking about, so that if for whatever reason there is a slow news day, which rarely happens anymore, but it does happen sometimes, we can look at trends to understand what people are interested in and what they're talking about. That's another way that allows us to grow our audience, because at a certain point you're gonna hit a saturation point which means that you're not going to be able to grow your audience beyond a certain level. But trend spotting and paying attention to what everybody else on social media at large is talking about means that you can insert yourselves into the conversation by paying attention to what those trending topics are. So when I said that virality is not a strategy, but viral content is the outcome of a good strategy, this is probably the most important point of what our whole strategy is. We look at our lowest performing content. Rather than looking at our highest performers, the videos that go the most viral and get the most views, we look at the videos that aren't doing well, that are underperforming, that aren't getting a lot of views, and we focus on how we can make those better. We do a lot of A/B testing with our videos, and that means we edit the headline in different ways, we edit the first 3 to 5 seconds of a video in different ways, we choose different thumbnails. We really pay attention to every component of a video and what it looks like on your phone, of course, to make sure that it is optimized. And we will rerun videos or repost videos once we run those A/B tests so that we can really tell and continue to accumulate that data. So, data is really important, our audience numbers are really important, but nothing is more important than the human oversight that our editorial team provides. These are 6 questions that we ask our producers every day to keep in mind when they're pitching their stories and editing their videos. The first question is, would I share this video on my feed? And do I actually care about this story? If a producer pitches us something and we're not quite sure why they're pitching that, or if it's particularly interesting for our audience, we'll throw that question right back at them. Would you share this? Do you really care about this? And if their answer is no, then usually we move on or we find a different angle that makes more sense. What's the most compelling part? I talked a little bit about the first 3 to 5 seconds of a video. It has to be visually compelling, but you also should have your most interesting fact in that section. That's the way you're gonna stop people in their news feeds while they're scrolling and really get their attention. What emotion am I trying to convey? When we're talking about shareability, people share content on social platforms because it makes them feel something. That can be anger, that could be amusement. That could be inspiration, that could be joy or happiness. It could be any emotion, but a producer really needs to keep that in mind when they're making their content so that we understand what experience the viewer is really getting out of this video. How will I get the viewer to finish and share? So obviously, the beginning of the video is very important for getting people to stop and watch, but we also pay close attention to our completion rates. So we don't just want people to watch the first 3 seconds, we want them to watch the entire video. And video completion rates are another metric that platforms like Facebook and YouTube will provide you with, so you can study and improve on those as well. And then lastly, how can I tailor this to different platforms? Because a story makes particular sense for Facebook and Twitter doesn't mean you shouldn't put it on other platforms. It just means that there's a different angle and perhaps a different format that you should take that and put that in. So I've talked a lot about what our audience numbers are and how proud we are of our scale and our reach, but more important than that, we want to be impactful. We don't just want to be big. And we have a metric that we call intelligent scale. Intelligent scale measures the engagement of your viewers. So in terms of views, our company is number 8 in terms of views worldwide. Group 9 Media is our parent company. They own NowThis, an animal news site called The Dodo, as well as some other brands. But NowThis is the main driver of this company. So we're number 8 in terms of views. You've got places like BuzzFeed and Disney, of course, at the top. They're massive organizations, massive corporations. But when you look at engagement, which is the number of likes, comments, and most importantly, shares that you get on a video or a piece of content, we're number 1. So even though we are a smaller organization than many of these larger companies, we have the most impact. We have an audience that passionately cares about the issues that we cover, and they want to educate themselves about it, but they also want to educate their friends about it. And I think that's one of the most important metrics that you can really pay attention to in the digital age, because a lot of companies, they just care about views. They just want to trot that statistic out. But having engagement and consistent engagement is what's actually going to grow your audience organically in the long term, because it means your content is good enough that people actually want to show it to their friends. All right, I'm happy to take any questions from you guys, and then we'll let Toby give her fact-checking presentation.
Presentation, I have a question. Group 9 Media, yeah, you said, is that a company that, was it a startup? NowThis was a startup initially, and then it was acquired by 9 Media, or was it, like, whose idea was it? So that's an interesting one to find out. And also, you mentioned that you are looking for videos that not performing well, and then you try to make it interesting and change something. So are you talking about the videos that you produce and not performing well, or you try to search the ones that are interesting and then you collaborate and kind of work together?
Okay. For the first question, NowThis was a startup. It still is a startup, but it's part of this larger company. So NowThis was founded in 2012 by the co-founder of Huffington Post, a man named Kenneth Lair, who is a venture capitalist in New York. So he invested a lot of money into this idea of social mobile video. And he hired people like me and my colleagues to help run this startup. Since then, we've had larger and larger investments over the years. We got $10 million from NBC. Last year, we got our biggest investment ever. It was $100 million from Discovery Network. And so with that $100 million, we chose to form an umbrella company with sister companies that we had already worked with. So the Dodo, Thrillist, and Seeker Network. They're also startups. They focus on other issues. So the Dodo focuses entirely on animal news. If you ever see a viral cat or dog video on Facebook, it's probably from the Dodo. And they probably got their footage from Storyful. So we basically united these companies under one brand, but all of the brands still function independently of each other. As for the second question, we're looking at our own videos. So that's, if there's a low performing NowThis video, that's what we're looking at to try to improve it. Though, of course, we do look at what our competitors are doing as well.
I'm sorry, I came late. On the last show, you showed how your company placed itself depending on views or engagement. So views, I think it's easy to get statistical data, let's say, but how do you exactly measure the engagement?
Okay. There are a number of ways to measure engagement. Again, we do have the benefit of having our own data and insights team, and they're manually and automatically sort of like tallying up the number of likes, comments, and shares that we get on every single video. But completion rate, as I mentioned, is another metric that we looked at. So we can tell, okay, 60% of our audience is finishing our videos all the way through. We consider that an engaged audience. So those are some of the metrics that we look at under engagement, and that's within our company. But there are also a number of outside organizations that do their own studies of what counts as engagement. Tubular Labs, NewsWhip, these are some of the places that do it. And using their data as well, NowThis regularly ranks at the top of engagement. Yeah. So it's basically not just somebody watching your video, but taking an action related to that video, whether it's a comment or a share.
You said you did an interview with Barack Obama. Have you requested an interview with Trump?
We have. He has not responded.
Oh dear. Okay.
We have some time. Maybe he'll sit down with us one day, but given his current media strategy of pretty much only talking to Fox News, I don't think that's going to happen. But we regularly reach out to Republicans. Obviously, we have this point of view that is often progressive on a lot of issues because young people are often progressive on a lot of issues. So you saw Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Barack Obama. We've been lucky in that sense to have a lot of high-profile politicians sit down with us, and we regularly reach out to politicians from the other parties. We've interviewed libertarian candidates, the Green Party candidates, but Republicans have not yet said yes. I don't know what they're scared of.
Добрый день. Хотела узнать, как вы зарабатываете деньги, в том числе на новостях?
Okay, yes. So let me turn this down a little bit. We make our money a couple different ways. We monetize our content. Platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, and now Instagram allow companies to put ads either in the middle of a video. Facebook is now experimenting with mid-roll advertising, or the middle of a Facebook Live video. You can also do that. Snapchat allows you to run ads within your Discover channel. And Twitter has a tool called Marketplace, which allows you to run ads at the beginning of your video. YouTube, of course, does that as well. So using all of the current monetization tools of those platforms is one way that we make money. The bigger way, probably the most profitable way, is branded content. So we have a separate department called NowThis Studios that works directly with clients and brands like Ozarka Water or other food brands in the United States, JP Morgan, Chase, different financial institutions, and they work directly with them to make branded content. So they're still making videos. They look, kind of like a normal NowThis video would look, but they're labeled sponsored content on Facebook. They have the brand's logo in the video. The story is about, whatever they want to tell. And that has proven to be a pretty lucrative business for us. Cool. Oh, one more.
Здравствуйте. Хотелось бы узнать, как быстро вам удается проверять данные? То же самое видео, которое поступает из социальных сетей.
Okay. That's actually a great setup for Toby's presentation because they are somebody that we work with. But it's a team of producers, a team of journalists and editors that are constantly looking, sourcing, vetting all of this information. Toby will go into detail. Both of our organizations often reach directly out to the users that were getting their content from social media, and we use a number of different ways to verify that person's identity, to make sure that they're telling the truth. If they took a video at a certain place, making sure that they can send us, maybe other photos or videos from that same place to prove that they were actually there. There are a number of indicators that you can use, and Toby is going to go into detail on that, so I'll let her do that. Cool. I think she's getting set up. Thank you, guys. There you go. Or you don't care?
Hi, everyone. Oh, do you want this? Sorry. Thank you for having me, and I'll try to keep this quick because I know you've had a very long day. I'm Toby Bochan, head of video. I've just promoted myself at Storyful. And what Storyful does and where it comes from is working with user-generated content specifically. In 2010, during the Arab Spring, a journalist called Mark Little saw an opportunity in the market to use people on the ground in a breaking news situation to better tell stories, because news agencies aren't sending out people the way they used to. We don't have a bureau in every city and every town across the world, but there's these people all over the world who have become reporters, and because they have phones. They hold up their phones, they take a video, and they share it. The problem is that newsrooms are not equipped to deal with that content in real time, and users also, the readers of those publications don't trust user-generated content the way that they do with mainstream reporting. So there was a real opportunity in the market, both for the digital publishers, broadcasters to get real-time footage from regular people, as well as for those people themselves to become part of the story. And one of the things at that time, when you would see a video from YouTube or a tweet, it would just say, credit YouTube, credit Facebook, credit Instagram. I don't think Instagram was really popular then, but the people weren't getting credit. So Storyful came to protect both sides, to make sure that the content creators were getting fairly credited, and if they wanted to, compensated. And on the other side of that newsrooms could use this user-generated content, and it would be verified, trustworthy, and tell the story that they could tell with their own resources. So I'm going to start with a video that came across our desk about a year ago, and sort of uses as a test case for what does it mean for Storyful verifies a video. Because what we deal with are these situations that are unique, shareable, and extraordinary, but are they what they seem?
No, good. Best one we've had all season.
Oh, really?
Yes, absolutely, yeah. No, at least 200 kgs.
Dad is gonna lose his mind over this.
It's not so big now, eh, pussycat? Right, okay. Let's take one of these, eh? Get your guns out.
Oh, these
That's
ones?
it. Yeah, these ones, yes. That's it. Go, pump them. That's it.
Are you gonna work on this?
Oh, come on. Right, let me... Yeah, well... Right, I'll just check the camera, yeah? Okay. That's right. Okay, good stuff.
So, as you can imagine, this video generated a lot of buzz online. It was trending very quickly, and we wanted to look at it. So, the way that we really go through this is our journalists, so we have a team of product people, we have a team of journalists that layer on top of that technology. And so when we see a trending video, we go through our journalists, just take old school journals and go through these three core verification checks. We look at the source, the date, and the location. The most important being the source, because both we want to find the original content creator as well as make sure that the source is reputable, that we can trust that person and the content that they're presenting. So there's two halves to vetting an uploader and verifying the source. One is finding original content, because as we all know, online is cluttered with scrapes, copies, riffs on things, and then there are people who try to pass off fake things as real or pass off things that aren't theirs as their own. So we want to make sure that the uploader is trustworthy, because there are propaganda videos, there are a lot of stunts, so let's see if we can figure out if we believe them. So the first step we always do is to find the original. So this is from, on the left you'll see a video from Instagram post from singer Katy Perry, and I'm playing what you would see, and I'll explain why you wouldn't be able to find this Instagram post in a minute. Most memes, GIFs, things shared by celebrities aren't original, but we always assume that. But if you see something that's, big white text over it, there's a little thing, a lot of Facebook pages share copies, they're not the original. So what we do is look for the original, and our first step is almost always to take a thumbnail or small picture from the video and do a reverse image search on that to try to find the oldest image we can of the oldest result. So when we did a reverse image search on this, we came up with thousands of copies, I think maybe hundreds at the time. Now there are thousands when I did this for this presentation. The one at the top that I've circled in red is the oldest YouTube version, but we also had a sense that it probably didn't originate on YouTube because of the format. That YouTube video makes a comment referring to the original, so lo and behold, that was the original, and we had licensed that with the uploader. Now we asked Katy Perry to pay for that use, so that she could be compensated for the use. And Katy Perry said no. So what Storyful does in that case is take it down. So if Katy Perry, a person with 100 million Twitter followers, doesn't want to pay a small fee to a content creator, we say, no, you can't have it for free, and we take it down. So as I was saying, the format is one of the clues. If you see a square video, it probably came from Instagram. Vertical videos often come from Twitter, horizontal videos from YouTube, but also consider where in the world the video was taken. So if you see a video from Russia, it's probably from VKontakte first. If you see something from China, most likely the original person shared it on Weibo or Youku or one of the other social platforms. So consider the origin of the footage. That said, we also want to see where is that person located, were they traveling? So there's a lot of different ways. We look through the whole footprint of an uploader to find it. And that's sort of where we get to the second step, which is vetting the source. So we think we found the original. In this case, some people might think that these are two videos. We manage this video. There's one on the left that has 53 million views and one on the right that has 11 million views. Some people would say the one with 53 million is probably the original. Some people would say the one on the right is probably the original because it predates it. But a lot of videos will originate on Facebook and then be copied over to YouTube. So neither of those two things are absolutely true. So what we're going to do is check out the social profile of this person and see what else we can learn about these two uploaders. So one easy thing that we can do is look at the rest of their videos. The one on the left is the same little boy over and over again, including our video, but also, Matteo. And the thing that we notice here is the one on the left is called Linda, and that is actually what over and over this little boy is referring to his mom is by her first name, Linda, which is one of the reasons it went so viral, because he stands there shouting, "Linda, give me a cupcake, Linda, Linda." And the one on the right there is an obvious scraper to Storyful, because it's a collection of random videos, pop culture videos, things from television, things he couldn't possibly have taken himself, unless he's, the most remarkable person in the world. But he, that's an Academy Awards video. So the one on the left is the correct one. But that's the next step we take, is going through this person. Where have they been active? What kind of languages do they speak? Does it match up with the language in the video? Where has the uploader been based? Have they been traveling? For instance, in the Marmot video with the Katy Perry, that wasn't where that person was from. That was taken in Hawaii. But we looked at their social profiles and saw at that time they had corroborating tweets and Instagram posts that showed they had been in Hawaii around the time of that video. The final thing we do is get in contact with that person. Storyful often licenses videos. We do two things. We either clear and distribute it to our partners such as NowThis, BuzzFeed, the New York Times, ABC News, Walt Disney, or we license it, and that's when we enter into an exclusive agreement with that uploader. At that point, we always are entering into a contract, so we get them on the phone and ask them questions. If we can't get them on the phone, we get them on WhatsApp, we get them on text message, we reach out to them and have an actual conversation in some way or another. And at that point, we're going to ask them, were they the recorder of the video? If not, who was and who gave them the footage? What did they say the video shows? Why were they taking that video? What motivated them to pick up their phone and hit record? What device did they use to take the video? And can they send us the raw file or any other videos, pictures, or media that they took at that same time directly from the phone to our email account so that we can see the data associated with that? Because much of it will be in the EXIF data, which you can actually mine to see, is it the device they said? What is the quality? Where is the location? A lot of that will be contained there. Once we get through the source, which is something we always confirm 100%, we go to the date. So in a news situation, there's rarely breaking news in this world anymore where only one person is going to tweet about it, post about it. If an attack happens, there's going to be multiple reports. Check the news, check the weather if it is a weather-related event. Even if it isn't a weather-related event, we'll check weather reports sometimes just to see, was it a sunny day when this video that is a sunny day was shot? Was there any damage from a flood that was reported by the media in that time? So we go and look for other ways to corroborate or confirm that date that they said. Again, the asking for the footage or other things that we can see is another really strong touch point for us. Then for location, we're going to look for what we can find from the data. Again, most people don't turn off their location data. They, in fact, include extra data on their Instagram posts and their Twitter posts, especially, so look at where the pin drops when you click on that little data. Is it where it's supposed to be? Some people do spoof or use VPN, so it's not 100%, but again, it's a really good first starting point. Then, if there's any doubt, we'll look at Google Maps, Google Earth, to look at landmarks around that location to see if we can see if it all lines up with where they said they were at that time. During breaking news situations, we often use that to see angles. During the Boston Marathon attack, it was very effective to see what was going on in the city and where people were saying they were, because we have a tool which sucks in, if a breaking news events, we have a tool that sucks in basically every post. We drop a pin on a map, all social posts that have geolocation on get sucked into our system so we can see it in real time and then compare it to where it looks like it's supposed to be. So it's a really powerful tool, but it can be done by anyone without that particular technology that we have. And then again, we're looking at their social profiles, looking at their other tweets. You know, did they, if we're going to the Boston Marathon, did they 3 months ago talk about training for it? Most people post multiple times about things that they're planning or going to. So the problem with viral videos often, and you can just watch this enjoyable, storyful video meanwhile, is that there's only a few people involved in the event or the thing. There's not a lot of people who could verify this. There's not going to be a news report about what happens in this video that you're watching. The only people in it are going to be the pilot and the passenger. And so in this case, there aren't a lot of people who can verify this, but we got the video from the pilot of this plane, Romain. We verified that he was a pilot. We found his license. We were still just wanted to make sure. So we asked him to go out and take a picture of his plane and send it to us, and a picture of the cat, because we were a little worried about the cat being okay. So we licensed this with the pilot, and it's been a very big hit and distributed to many of our partners. But you know, it's worth it to us to go through these extra steps to make sure that when we send it out to NowThis, the New York Times, or the Washington Post, who are all clients of ours, ABC News use this actually, and as well as brands and agencies who we also work with who want to connect authentically with people through using user-generated content to tell stories about their brands, that we are 100% certain that we have the right piece of content for them and that we have all the rights and the right authenticity of it. So I think, well, we don't have to see the whole thing again, but anyone by a show of hands want to say if they think it's real, this one? And who thinks it's fake? It is fake. And some of you may have seen this before. It's a marketing stunt by a company called Mumbrella, who is purely doing it to prove that they could make a viral hit to fool people. Many news outlets picked this up as a real story. It was on the 6 o'clock news all over the United States. But not for our clients. So when we saw this video, here's how we sort of went. The YouTube description, well, actually, I'll start with the person. So this person had only one video, had no other social profile, and had started their account just before uploading this video. That in and of itself doesn't mean it's a fake. A lot of people start an account because they have captured something remarkable and they think they may be able to get a viral hit out of it. So not in and of itself the red, but a little bit of worrisome. So we couldn't find anything on this Jaden Tanner, a total blank. But what really, besides some of the visuals, caught our eye was the YouTube description. And now I think you'll remember at the end of the video, purportedly the video shows two people getting mauled by lions. So who got this video and put it up there? How did they get their hands on it? The video description says, I managed to get my hands on this video when I was in South Africa a couple of months ago. A hunter showed it, and I thought it was hilarious. For me, this video highlights a distressing situation that the world needs to see. So a lot of red flags on this one. If you got this video, would you wait a couple months to put it up? Would anyone in this room describe this video as hilarious? It's disturbing. There's a lot of words. None of these are hilarious. There's not, unless people dying is hilarious to you. So we did the reverse image search. We took a thumbnail just of the lion, and this is what came up. Those are two different hunters. That's the original photograph. It didn't take us more than 10 minutes to find this copy of this photograph that they had used and green screened into it. About a week after this video went viral, and I believe that video has about 11 million views currently, the firm came out and showed everyone how they did it, which was through a green screen, and then they used Getty video to put in the other lion, and they're very sophisticated, but for our clients, this is our Storyful proprietary platform, which our clients subscribe to and get their videos. We notified them as soon as we saw this, don't report on this video, or if you do, report on it as a hoax because it's a fake. And we detailed exactly how we did it in our entry so that our clients could report on it and gain the trust of their audience as opposed to lose it. And so the final thoughts are, you can do this for anything. This is about videos. It works for breaking news. But it works for pretty much anything that has doubt. Use the same kind of tools that you would for this that I've shown you to trace back. Look at the source. If someone's reporting something and they're quoting another source, look at that source. Look at the source until you go back and back and back and find the original. Check the dates. A lot of things are reported. For instance, Syria. Someone mentioned yesterday, a panel at Kaz Media, that they had seen a Reuters video of a hack from Syria that later turned out to be fake because there was a child in it who was reportedly killed, but then showed up alive 3 months later. So a lot of old footage is repurposed as new. Every time there's a tornado, every time there's a hurricane, footage of former hurricanes, older tornadoes, other lightning storms resurfaces. So don't take anything for granted that you're seeing what you're seeing is now and correct. location we've talked about. But finally, I just want to stress that trust your instinct and use your intellect. It's up to us to sort of sort through this fake news and use the journalism that we've all been taught to bring that to our audience and report the real facts. Thank you. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Toby, for your presentation. My question is, why fact-checking became such a trend these days? I mean, shouldn't be, it's a part of a basic journalism. It's a part of the basic, real journalism. It should go without saying. So why it became such a big thing? It doesn't matter, of course, it's a video or it's a statement or some kind of data.
Well, it's a great question. I think that a lot of it has to do with, with user-generated content, people didn't really have the training or the tool set to verify that. So Storyful really was filling a need that newsrooms didn't have. And we've seen, actually, in the last 7 years especially, our journalists now have been stolen by CNN and the New York Times and are embedded there to do this work for them in-house. But I think a lot of it should be second nature. But, and I think it was talked about sort of in earlier panels that there's a lot of citizen journalism and people don't necessarily take the same steps. That there's a lot of pressure to be first and fast with news also, and that cuts down on this. So at another panel I was asked about how we deal with this in breaking news, and for instance, in the Manchester attacks, it took us about 32 minutes to verify and publish our first piece of content. But the next one took 2 hours because we needed to make sure it was right. And Storyful believes it's better to be right than fast. But I do think that the internet made news a game of firsties, and a lot of people will rush to be first rather than worry about being right for the views, unfortunately.
I apologize if I've missed something, but how do you make money, or how do you pay for your operation?
Sure, I didn't talk about
What is your business model?
So Storyful has a number of different revenue streams. We're a subscription-based platform, so we have over 100 publishers and digital publishers and broadcasters who subscribe to the platform I showed in that screenshot. They pay a monthly fee to download our content. And then we have revenue-generating agreements with our content creators. So the cat on a plane video, for instance, we monetize that for our creator on YouTube. We also sell downloads and licenses to that video to our subscribers who pay a premium fee for our premium content such as that. So we have about 12,000 videos that fall into that category, and the rate that people pay is based on what their use is. So they might pay $100 if they're only going to use it on one Facebook post, but might pay $1,000 if they want it on digital, broadcast, and some kind of corollary print use, for instance. So there's different rates. Finally, we also work with brands and agencies and do branded kind of content things. So the same video, we've had videos that we've worked with Apple to get. They did that shot with an iPhone app ad campaign, and they wanted to be verified that it was shot with an iPhone. So we got content for them specifically for that. That was really unique and arresting, and that was a very lucrative model for us. Finally, we also have a corporate intelligence and brand sort of direct thing where we work for brands to monitor their social mentions, but also get content specifically for them for campaigns. So we've worked with toy companies to see every time a child is positively mentioning things and post it and getting that content to them in real time so they can then repost it or share it on their pages, or just in the case of some people, know when their phones are blowing up and how they can get on top of that before it. Thank you so much.